Good morning. For those of you who do not know me, I am Danielle Norcross, the president of the Greater Atlantic City Chamber of Commerce. On behalf of the Greater Atlantic City Chamber of Commerce, I am truly honored to welcome you to our Women in Leadership Forum. It is incredibly inspiring to look around the room and see so many leaders, professionals, and change makers gathered together, are all committed to growth, connection, and supporting one another. Today is about more than a conversation. It's about sharing experiences, learning from one another, and continuing to create pathways for the next generation of women leaders who will follow behind us. Before we begin, I would like to extend our sincere gratitude to the organizations whose support made today possible. Thank you to our sponsors, Atlantic City Electric, yay! Dewberry Engineers, Comcast, and Thomas Boyd Communications. Your investment in programs like these demonstrates a true commitment to leadership development and to strengthening our business community. We are deeply grateful for your partnership and continued support of the Chamber and initiatives that elevate women in leadership. I would also like to extend a special thank you to Stockton University for generously providing this beautiful space for today's forum. Partnerships like this allow us to bring meaningful conversations to environments that inspire learning, collaboration, and innovation. Thank you for hosting us. We're fortunate enough to have several members of our board of directors and regional leadership here with us today, and I would like to recognize them. Thank you to our board members, Michelle Barberi of Glenn Insurance, Danny Mack of Boardwalk Bookkeeping, Jeff Rapecki of Ocean First Bank, Shayla Salter of Atlantic City Electric, Alex Marino's not in the room, but he's around here somewhere, of Stockton University, and Lauren Shivo of Thomas Boyd Communications. Thank you for your leadership, your service, and your continued commitment to the Chamber and our business community. We are honored to welcome distinguished leaders joining us today, Michelle Sekurka, President and CEO of the New Jersey Business and Industry Association, and Barbara Jones, President of the Cape May County Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for being here and for the leadership you provide across our region and state. And now it is my pleasure to introduce someone who truly embodies the spirit of leadership we are celebrating today, our Chamber Chairwoman. In the relatively short time I have had the privilege of knowing her, one thing has become incredibly clear. She is a rock star. Not only because of what she has accomplished professionally, but because of how she leads with strength, vision, and genuine commitment to opening doors for others. As a lobbyist, she has helped pave the way for women in spaces where leadership has not always looked like us. She represents the power of advocacy, perseverance, and using your voice to create meaningful change, qualities that define true leadership. Please join me in welcoming our chairwoman, Barbara DeMarco.
After that introduction, I will announce my retirement, because I don't think it gets better than that. I have the distinct pleasure of introducing all these marvelous women today. And first, thank you. Thank you from all the women here in the South Shore region who benefit from your knowledge, benefit from your mentorship. Some of you are natives to this area, some of you aren't, but we welcome you to our community, and I hope that everyone comes away today with something very, very inspirational. So, our first person, I'm gonna start, this is Monica, she's last. Start with the chief. Chief Tracy Stewart, Chief of Police, Stockton University. Her career on the front line of public safety is remarkable. Decorated tenure as an award-winning K-9 handler in her current role of Chief Police at Stockton University. She has become a leading voice in community-focused policing. And I hope you do go into this a little bit, because I think it has revolutionized Camden City, and I'm sure it is something that you use probably every day at Stockton University. I think it's a real important component going forward. from policy, but also, everyday challenges. She balances the immense responsibility of campus safety with a deep commitment to the organization. Please welcome Chief Tracy Stewart. Of all the women today, this woman might be the most important in this moment. Ami Patel is the Director of Air Traffic Systems at the FAA William J. Hughes Technical Center for Advanced Aerospace. Next, she is the person who has had a leadership of a 32-year-old journey and a masterclass of professional growth. Rising from an intern in her current role as Director of Air Traffic Systems at the FAA Technical Center, she now oversees over 700 professionals and mission-critical technology. She's at the helm of modernizing our national airspace while managing the complexities of high-stakes aerospace leadership. Please welcome Ami Patel. And I added that little bit of commentary because I would think her job right now, given what's going on in the Middle East, is extremely important to everyone in this room. The next person I'd like to introduce represents the world of engineering and actually it's Marie next. I'm looking. Okay, let me move on. Dr. Marie Pryor leads Microsoft's TechSpark program based at the New Jersey AI Hub. Exploring the intersection of AI, workforce development, and economic growth is a challenge our next guest takes on every day. As the community manager for TechSpark New Jersey, which is located at the Princeton University campus, and she commutes from Brigantine, so she deserves an award for that alone. She is the bridge between cutting-edge innovation and regional success. Her work ensures that as technology evolves, our community is prepared to lead the way. I have to tell you, from a policy person in the State House, this is perhaps one of the biggest issues we're dealing with right now. We represent Comcast, among others, and children, and the social media platforms. And is AI real or not real? The influencers, huge policy area, I think both on the state level and nationally. And your work is so very important. And the other part of that that's important is I represented Girls Who Code for quite a few years. This is teaching girls in very young ages how to code. And do you know the statistics last time I read them was that 50% of girls in the third grade begin in computer science and see it as a future. When they graduate, that number is 18%, of which only 3% are people of color. That is not acceptable. So the fact that Marie's here to talk technology, go. Go, Marie, go. Next is Lisa Peterson. She represents the world of engineers and vital infrastructure. Our next leader is I'm reading your script and you've put too much in here. She is a VP at Dewberry and currently serves as the president of the New Jersey State Board of Professional Engineers. She is a true standard bearer for technical excellence, managing complex transportation projects while upholding the highest regulatory standards in her field. Lisa is also one of my clients, and the thing that we navigate together with Dewberry mostly is how do we get all male superiors understand the role that women are really very vital, other than in a support position, because that's a predominantly male field, and how can they make the women underneath them shine and grow rather than put a finger on them. So we navigate that every day. And she can probably give you some insight of those difficult environments. Next is someone who started reading when she was 3 years old and writing because her big sister was learning to read and write in kindergarten, and she never stopped. She published her first book by the time she was 30. It was optioned for a movie. She sold 2 other, I think they're called, you have to correct me, Kathy,
Nepo baby. I'm the Nepo baby here. She got her sister to show up. Just go fast. Just go
treatment for 2 other books. She has won awards for screenwriting, children's book writing. She has sold books that have sold in 6 countries. She's a professor at Penn now for over 20 years, teaches both at the liberal arts end, but also Wharton with her husband. I think Jason Kelsey said this about Travis during the Super Bowl. If you know who, I don't see how you can't know who they are.
I'm so scared.
As wonderful as it is to be recognized and receive awards, nothing gives me greater pleasure than when my siblings shine. And she shines brighter than any star in the sky. She's a wonderful person, a wonderful mentor to students who now hold positions in the highest level in Hollywood.
Wrap it up.
But again, as a big sister, I'm very proud of her, so I've added a little commentary there. But that's my sister, Kathleen DeMarco Van Cleve. And finally, Dr. Monica Amadeo, founding chair of the Entrepreneurship and assistant professor of business management. All I can tell you is this woman is energy. And when I first met her, it was like fireworks. She wanted to go here, she wanted to do this, she wanted to get this thing started, and I was like, wow. Monica teaches at Stockton. She also is one of the NJ Biz's Power 50 honorees and a featured columnist in Inc. magazine. Her global research focuses on the specific success strategies of high-achieving women. There's no one better today and more suited to lead this discussion. I am so glad she has come into my orbit. Please welcome our moderator, Dr. Monica Amadeo.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. I am thrilled to hear from these women who have experienced professional growth and demonstrated leadership skill and competence, which is historically possibly unimaginable in the fields in which they operate. So what I'd like to do is focus on not only what they've done, but how they did it, and what kernels of wisdom we can pull from their shared experience. I took a quick selfie, by the way, before while we did it. Thank you for that. Also, if I can give one commercial break very quickly before we get started, on each of your tables is a little QR code. If you would like to join this conversation as part of a nationwide study for high-achieving women in business, I would appreciate if you would scan it and simply enter your first name, last name, and email. I will follow up with a survey that will be the study of that area. So thank you very much for that. Thank you for allowing me that, Grace. Okay, we will start with some questions. I also have some bonus questions, and I have questions that are not on our prepared list. So I'm most eager to get to those. So if you could share with us, we'll do this for each of the panelists first, and then we'll do like a call on you, or if you have something to add component for the following questions. Tell us your current role and the path that took you there. Was this always your plan? Tracy?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. Start there. I am currently the Chief of Police for Stockton University Police Department. I am responsible for the overall operations of the police department, its personnel, as well as overseeing the safety and security of the university community, whether it be students, faculty, staff, visitors. Policing in general, as I moved through, was something that I found an intrinsic value in. It was something that I always kind of wanted to do as a child, really FBI related. But as I moved through my career, I was trying to figure out how I could best increase my role within the agency and within the university. What else can I do? So I had opportunities like Neighborhood Watch, becoming an advisor there, opportunities of becoming the canine handler. I was selected for that, which was probably the highlight of my career. I'm sure I'll get to that later. But being the chief of police was not on my radar, was not part of my plan. It's just something that kind of crossed my path as I grew and developed within my department and became more and more connected to the Stockton community. I'm committed to Stockton. They've been there for me through the roller coaster ride of life, through the roller coaster ride of policing, and so I'm very committed and connected. And as I saw certain needs arising within my agency and the university, and the opportunity kind of crossed my path, I absolutely jumped on it, and I'm very blessed and grateful that I am the chief of police.
Thank you. Ami?
Good morning. You hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. My name's Amy Patel, Ami Patel. You know, I guess I'll start there. I recently was on a women's panel probably a year ago, and they had asked me my name, and up until now I've always wanted to be a fly on the wall. I just didn't want to stand out. I wanted to blend in, and so I went by Amy all my life. 31 years later, after being with the agency, someone was like, hang on, there's two Amy's at the table, and your family doesn't call you Amy, do they, at home? I'm like, no, at home, everyone calls me Ami, and everyone at work calls me Amy. Because I figured if we're gonna not pronounce it correct, let's just do it easier. So since then, and it was a peer female leader that helped me change that. And I myself haven't even been able to adopt it yet to say Amy, Ami. But I'm really happy that I had that opportunity to go back to the correct pronunciation of it, especially in the industry that I'm in today. So Ami Patel, I work at the FAA. I've been there for 32 years. I started as an intern. I'm currently the director of air traffic systems. We're modernizing the programs that take you pretty much from point A to point B, whether you're taking off, whether you're en route, or whether you want to find efficiencies. I started as an intern. It's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a teacher. And back when I grew up, my dad said, no, you're going to go into computer science. And I said, okay. And then he's like, and now you're going to be a dual major and you're going to go into mathematics. And I said, okay. And along the way, I had my first interview as a manager. And they asked me why I wanted the job. And I had researched it. I had a canned answer. And in the moment, I'm like, you know what? It's because I always wanted to be a teacher and I want to help people. And I've now been a manager at the agency for 25 years and the best course that I've ever taken.
Thank you, Ami.
Marie. Good morning, everyone. Marie Pryor. I work for Microsoft, leading their TechSpark program out of the New Jersey AI Hub based in Princeton. And it's a unique public-private partnership of which Microsoft is one of 4 founding partners, along with CoreWeave, the State of New Jersey Economic Development Authority, Princeton University. And so those 4 entities came together to form the New Jersey AI Hub. And by virtue of Microsoft's TechSpark program, it's a regional program, a national program in 11 regions throughout the United States, New Jersey being the newest region and focused solely on AI. And so TechSpark is very deliberate about finding people from the states and the regions in which they do the work to really have that interconnected tissue and to really be able to drive the work through local connections that we've built over a lifetime. And so my work sits at the intersection of technology, education, and workforce and economic development. And the path to getting here where I sit today, in some ways very linear, and on paper not so much. And so what I can say is the common thread through my career, which actually began in criminal justice, another non-traditional pathway that Chief Stewart knows all too well, was that I was always looking for work that was purpose-driven and trying to identify where do I feel that my efforts and my skill sets could make a change and to make systems work better for people. And so that's what drew me to the criminal justice space and then following that, the technology space. But the interconnected tissue is that I came to Microsoft 5 years ago to lead a grant program that was nationally focused, helping nonprofits use data and technology to transform their local communities and drive reform efforts. And so the common thread, without me realizing it, in all the different roles across academia, government, nonprofit, was always that nexus of data and technology to drive change. And so it's something that, in preparation for this and other things, thinking back, there was always that through line and that common thread, but I didn't realize how each role was leading on to the next. And so really, really excited to be here with you all today and share those insights.
Hi, Lisa Peterson. I am the Associate Vice President of Dewberry. We're a national engineering firm focusing on infrastructure, so roadway, energy, utilities, things of that nature. My path, I think it was always what I was going to do. I always played with Tonka trucks and mud growing up as a child, and was always in the gifted and talented programs kind of growing up, and I was guided and steered into engineering programs kind of through the elementary and high school. So I was really fortunate. I didn't grow up in an engineering family. I grew up with firefighters and police people. So we didn't really know much about engineering, so I was just fortunate someone kind of nudged me in that direction. I started at Dewberry as my first after college career, working on bridge projects, and how I developed further into what I do now as the dual license engineer and land surveyor. I went over to one of the surveyors one day and asked, where's the data I need to do my design? And they were having a cranky day and said, if you want your information so bad, why don't you go get your own degree and do it yourself? And I didn't realize that it was a separate profession. There's an engineering profession, which is one whole college degree, experience, and examinations, and then the land surveying is actually a whole nother separate degree, experience, and examinations. And as a young engineer, if that person didn't kind of probably have that cranky day, I wouldn't have been so enlightened to it. And within the state of New Jersey, there are only 600 land surveyors. There are 20,000 engineers. I happen to be one of the dual licensees of both, and there's 100 of us. And I think there's, at this point, 8 women that do the dual. So, I'm very fortunate that just happenstance that's how it kind of came about. And I just had people that kind of kept offering me guidance into the next step to what I do. And I try to do the same for the up-and-comers within my organization and within the profession. So.
I'm the comic relief here today, in case you haven't figured it out. Kathy DeMarco Van Cleve, it's a ridiculous name, but it is in fact my name. My current role is I'm a senior lecturer at Penn. I've been there for 20 years, and I teach creative writing, screenwriting, and then how to produce movies. Absolutely not the plan, not even close, although it is interesting to me that I've ended up in this position that I hope utilizes not just my strengths, but my unwavering belief that stories can change the world. I believe that as firmly as, and good writing specifically in the expression of human stories reflecting our experiences can change people. So that's something, I think if you had asked me as a very young child, as Barbara said, I was just a complete geek and read books all the time. And then I did what all aspiring writers want to do. After college, I became an international chemical fertilizer trader. True story. And I sold chemical fertilizers all around the world, specializing in Latin America, but luckily I was terrible at it, so I did not pollute the world. But I did work there for 4 years, and I learned, I can promise you that in the world of it's international chemicals, it's international trade, there were about, I don't know, you'd go to a convention in Caracas or someplace, and there'd be 2,000 men, and there'd be 5 total women. And there was exactly 1 woman in her 20s who had just graduated college. That was really, really difficult for me. And I had come to that job similarly to whoever's, Ami, I think you said about your parents, like my dad when I went to Penn undergrad and I had a chance to get a master's degree in English, but I also had a chance to get what they do, a dual degree program at Penn, where so I could do creative writing and also get a degree from Wharton. And my father's like, well, that's not even a choice. Of course you're going to go to Wharton. So I did, which is great. I'm very grateful for that. If only because I get to make fun of my sons when they try to pretend that I don't know anything about math. And I just throw the Wharton degree at them. But also, just working at that, so I was a rower, I don't know, I was captain of the women's team at Penn in my undergraduate years, and that's relevant only because it just shows my stupid hubris when I took this fertilizer job. And they were like, are you sure you're going to be okay in this all-male industry? And I was like, oh, sure. I'm in the boathouse with the heavyweight men all the time. I was completely out of my depth. That was really difficult. But I learned. I went on all these trips and absorbed as much as I could. And then I became like a movie producer, and then I wrote novels, and then I ended up teaching. It's weird. But storytelling is, I think, the main through line, and additionally, just having all the experiences. I mean, that's what is a writer but somebody who expresses their life experiences, and I'm lucky to have had a big and disparate horde of them. So.
Powerful statements all. Quickly sharing my own experience is that my path was slightly more linear than Kathleen's story, although I do appreciate you sharing it. But the through line for me is creativity and the desire to serve the community to the best of my ability. And currently that means creating entrepreneurs and empowering students to start their own venture and then launch those ventures in the community. I often say that to have a job is good, to create jobs will change our community. So just circling back, I have two questions that I kind of paired together here based on your responses, which were very effective. And I appreciate that several of you, Kathy, especially Kathleen, mentioned being the only woman in the room in the fertilizer example, I believe. So if I can combine these, have you been the only woman in the room, which we know is true, but what other barriers or assumptions did you encounter along the way, and how did you overcome them?
I'll go.
Thank you, Ami.
It's a hard dynamic and balance. I think that throughout my career, I never wanted to use the fact that I was a woman as a crutch. So it almost became a barrier for me because I was trying to put it to the side. So I was overcompensating. I was always prepping for everything, and I always felt like I wasn't good enough. And everybody else at that table that were the men, they never said that. I never heard anyone ever say, well, I'm not good enough, or I can't take that. Whereas I think inherently as women, we just question whether we're good enough. And I remember the shift for me. There was a fire at Chicago Center, and it was in the news. And I had gone home to log in to continue working it throughout the weekend. And I have twin boys, and at the time, I think they were like 7. And they came into the study, and they're like, Mom, did you see your FAA is on the news? Because of course, whenever FAA is on the news, I know it all. And I'm like, yeah, I'm actually working it. And I heard him go out and tell my family, because my sisters were over, that my mom is working what's on the news. Mm-hmm. And to me, that was the moment that I'm like, okay, what I'm doing really matters to not only the flying public, but to my boys. Today they're 26 and they both are in professional careers and come back and ask me math questions, which I am so happy to answer, or computer, or how to code something, because they just want to put everything in ChatGPT. I teach them how to actually do it. But most recently, the secretary, the DOT secretary and the FAA administrator came to the technical center, and I had the honor and privilege to be on stage with them, and I was the only woman. And throughout the entire day, that's what it was like. And for the first time, I told myself going in that I am not going to compensate for the fact that I am. And it just, I can't tell you, it helped me make sure that my technical expertise came to light. And a lot of what I shared with the secretary got then implemented in action plans that we're doing today. So I would say make sure that you count on you, because you shine. It's not because of everybody else. And being the only woman isn't preventing us from doing anything. I think we are our own barriers, because the men at the table never looked at me that way. I myself was perceiving that.
Thank you. Let's see, Marie, do you mind answering that as well?
Yeah, no, happy to, and Ami, appreciate those insights, because I do feel similarly, especially in my journey in tech. I think there's a perception that the walls are higher for women than they are, and oftentimes it can be self-imposed or self-actualized. And so for me, I've been really fortunate at Microsoft that it's an extremely inclusive culture and an extremely supportive culture, which everyone might not realize when they think big tech, but they really live their values in terms of making sure that families are supported, that employees are supported, and that people that do good work and show up for the company can rise through the ranks and be acknowledged and be valued and promoted. What I will say, sort of, going back across the journey, I think sometimes too, as women, we feel that if there is misalignment in a role, or if we are experiencing toxicity or negative behavior in a role, or too much friction, that it's because of us. And sometimes it's the environment, and it is the wrong place. So I also want to encourage, especially the younger women in the room earlier in career, that if something really feels misaligned and you've made moderate adjustments yourself, that's not on you to fix, and you need to go where you're valued. And so if that's not where you currently are, then don't feel like you have to do it or else. Sometimes it is making that shift for yourself and looking for new opportunities, and not being afraid to do that.
Thank you. These are both some powerful insights, and I appreciate that you're giving us both the framework for how you felt in that moment, but also how to handle yourself in that situation, right, moving forward. Part of my research is just starting to explore this idea of invisible labor, all the work we do to prior prep before. They say prior preparation prevents poor performance. However, as women, we often do way more than is necessary and than our counterparts do, and work in things like persuasion and other areas. So we'll circle back to that later, or talk about it offline. Would Tracy or Lisa or Kathleen like to add? Tracy?
So what I'll add is, well, first off, have I ever been the only woman in the room? Yes. Not often, but absolutely, or a very small number, let's say. And I'll give you this example. When I was selected to be the canine handler, we attended the New Jersey State Police Canine Academy, and out of a class of roughly 50 canine handlers, there were 3 of us who were female. So I was fortunate in that I was a certain age when I got into policing. I was at that capped age in New Jersey, which is 35. So I had a bit of an older mindset. I had worked plenty in my life and experienced quite a bit, so I was a little more seasoned than the average bear. So once I went through the Canine Academy with my partner, I just went about my business, and I'm one who likes to try to perfect my craft as best as possible. So just by happenstance, I didn't feel lesser than my canine compadres who went through the academy with me. I was in my own lane and focused on myself and my dog. So by happenstance, I came across an exceptional individual, who took me under his wing and became my mentor in the area of canine, and now also my BFF and my life coach as well, years later. But white male, so there's, it wasn't like a female thing. I guess he saw me as the potential sponge I had a desire to learn, which I made quite clear. Not too shy to ask for help. And he has been there ever since, being my driving force in many ways, in many aspects of my life. And 3 national titles later, I guess it has worked, because I absorb everything. I train a lot. I put in a lot of time and effort in my off hours. I don't have the best social life because of that, but you have to figure out what you're willing to sacrifice to get what you want out of life. So that's the piece for K9. I navigated it by putting in the time, by finding the recipe for what I deemed success in that area. And I followed it to the T. I didn't add an extra pinch of salt. I followed the recipe. As it relates to women in law enforcement in higher ranking positions, in my earlier days in law enforcement, there really were not a lot of higher ranking females in law enforcement. It's certainly not in our area. But as I got older and had more time in law enforcement, that has, that glass ceiling was burst by others before me, and I'm very grateful for that. So, but I do believe that education is the great equalizer. Mm-hmm. So as I moved along and kind of was minding my business, just focusing on me and what I can do and how I can benefit the Stockton community and be the change maker, right? I achieved my master's here at Stockton. Go Stockton. My doctorate also, and again, just kind of preparing myself and giving back as best I can to my department and to my community. And I say when opportunity comes a-knocking, you answer the door, because it might not come back. So that's how I was able to kind of navigate through. And by putting in the time, by showing people that I care, by giving everything that I have as best I can to my team within the agency, and to those who I owe this opportunity, the people who gave me this opportunity or saw it in me to give me this opportunity, I owe it to them to stay true to what I told them, which is every day I'm going to work hard, not just for the team, not just for the community, but to make sure that you are proud and you know that this is the best decision you've ever made. So hopefully I am holding true to that today, if they're listening.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate the comment about mentors, and we'll circle back to that as well.
I just want to make a point.
Lisa?
3 different backgrounds, kind of same storyline. Mine's a 4th different category or discipline, and it's the same. Like, I touch on, just take whatever each one of these women said and just replace Lisa with engineering to any one of those storylines. And it's, we need to do something different or better, and continue to work as a society, to continue to make the improvements for, our professions, our careers, and the generations going forward.
So if collectively we share this common story, this is our thread among so many different industries and so much different life experience, what does that say about the societal issue of seeing examples of women in leadership, of having mentors in that space, and then of having sponsors, right, to speak highly of us when we are not the ones in the room. So,
Can I just add one?
Please.
This is a little bit different, but the same. I have worked, as I said, the international trade was very male. It's possibly changed. I don't know. I'm sure it's changed a bit. Academia and entertainment and publishing are, if you looked at the demographics, I'm going to guess that they're 50-50 male, female. But the same dynamic persists, which is the people who feel that they have, for whatever reason, are entitled and can just say whatever they want. And I'm always prepared, like making sure I know every single thing. And and even with my students, I see it too. Like so many female students come in and like, this is terrible, and I can't believe I'm writing this, and I'm a failure, and all this. And the guys never even think of that at all. Like the male students, they just come in and they're like, this is great, right? Can I get an agent? And you're like, no, it's astonishing. So I don't know what it is. I don't know what society's doing. To me, this transcends where, I teach students from all around the globe. I don't think it's just an American thing. I don't know it. It seems that it's some kind of inculcated societal influence, but it is even in industries that are that have some kind of parity, female male parity. It's still the same requirement. You have to learn how to speak up and also stay yourself. It's really hard. It's really hard.
Mm-hmm. To that point, in the High Achieving Women Entrepreneurs study that I conducted in tech sectors, the women said that as they're hiring other women, they make an offer and the women will accept the first offer. Whereas men in the room will say, no, I can't do it for less than X. And at that, as a researcher, we're not supposed to ask many questions except what's on our sheet. And I had to push back and say, well, what are you doing about it? And they were like, I'll get back to you. So we're circling back to that, but you're right. I think Dave Ramsey talks about, now he's a financial guy, talks about how he, in jest, talks about the security gland of women. And I wonder if there's something, it's not really a thing. It's not a medical thing. It's just that it twitches when we get too close to different situations. Okay. Switching to question 4, how has working in a non-traditional role shaped the way you lead others? Who would like to start? Ami?
Sure. All right, I will admit, we had these questions. I've been running every day recently, so I put them into ChatGPT last night, and I have a canned answer, and I don't want to go with the canned answer after all of this. So bear with me for 1 second, because I'm going to go off script in my brain for a minute. I think that, so recently, when I got named the director, I had to name my deputy. And again, I'm the only female director. And I have 750 employees that report to me, of which many are senior and growing up in the organization, because I started as an intern. I often led employees that had more seniority than I did. So I often got looked at like, who is this young kid coming in and telling me what to do? So back to where I am today, I had to decide who my deputy was, and I picked a female because she was the most qualified candidate. And it's grown to, she wants to make sure she's promoting women. And it's been great to see that in our field, the number of women that have joined the math and science area. So they're just inherently more to pick from. It's not because we're just promoting women, we're promoting the best candidate. And now, so it's been a year that me and my deputy have taken on the role, and we're leading the path. We really are leading the organization to make decisions and help. And I think if you keep the focus on the mission and make sure that that is being accomplished, I've learned that it has shaped me to make sure that that will always be kind of my driving focus or light, to make sure that I'm staying grounded to myself. And I think and hope that makes me successful in what I'm doing.
Indeed. Thank you again for sharing that about leadership. If we could go to Lisa as well, who also leads a large organization and I'm sure has similar feelings about.
Yeah, I do. The one thing I want to point out is I didn't realize I was in a non-traditional role until later, okay? Because growing up, I grew up in an equal opportunity household. My dad didn't matter if it was my brother or me, chores had to get done and you had to do them. And also thinking back into like growing up as a child, I don't really remember boy roles or girl roles, like in that time period where I was growing up, as opposed to what we're seeing now, right? So it wasn't until I was into my time period where and starting to look around going, oh, I am the oddball out. And then as I started to advance, I started becoming more and more the oddball out because there was less and less women coming into the into the meetings. But what I do is I guess I'm the manager that I wanted to manage me. And that's what I offer to the staff or the people that I work with, is I offer the resource that I would have appreciated having access to. the empathy, not the robot, not just your numbers are wrong, or that human component to it. And what I'm seeing within the people that I supervise is we have a hiccup at the front end, but we are by far delivering so much better after we get through that little hurdle, right? Because we're not following protocol per se, because we're not doing these steps, but it's what the team needs, right? Because we're evolving into maybe a generational delivery mechanism. I'm more humanistic to like what is needed for the collective of the group, and I focus in more on how am I going to get the best output from each of the different folks that I'm dealing with, and I like to empower kind of the junior task leads as they're working with the groups, and letting everyone work to the best of their abilities, as opposed to, I guess, just numbers on a paper. And I was more, when I was being supervised, it was very much more numbers on a paper, and it didn't matter outside of any other way. So, so really, I guess I'm just leading the way that I would have wanted to have been led, is the shortest answer I have for that. Yeah.
Appreciate that. I also appreciate the insight about not knowing that it's a non-traditional role, right? But approaching just with interest and curiosity about that subject area and becoming an expert in it. As somebody who had a 25-year history with career and technical education, I can tell you that there are some roles. My young cousin became a welder, and so looking at those trades, I know several young high school girls that are going into construction management. And there's huge opportunity, but they need to be made aware that there's that opportunity. So I think resources like this, as they're shared out, and each of us in our own communities can share that as well, open those doors, and I appreciate it. Thank you for sharing that. If we go on to the next question, how can organizations better support women entering these types of non-traditional, and I'll put it in quotes, fields?
I actually want to lead off with this.
Please. Thank you, Lisa.
Because as I did get into that higher level role, I didn't have access to the additional support that I felt that I needed. So I had asked for career coaching because I didn't have internal mentors. So I think as people within organizations continue to elevate, you're going to have less and less access to senior female role models, and you're going to tap out. So then you have to look for resource elsewhere. So it's starting to think outside the box in order to maybe offer some of those resources. And that was our initial solution for my problem. And then I kind of worked that through with some peers and colleagues and friends within different organizations. So let's just.
Thank you. Yeah. I appreciate that insight about career coaching, reaching out beyond your organization. How else, in other ways, can organizations support women in these roles, especially as leaders? Would you like, Tracy?
Just very briefly, I was going to say mentoring and communication. So, as you already know, mentoring means a lot to me, and I believe that a good mentor goes a long way. Finding even just that role model where sometimes you have an individual who you might not absorb everything that this person is or says or does, but you can find those things that you might want to model. So having the ability to have access to those folks is important, and even moreover, as a supervisor or a department head or an agency head, it's important to ensure that all of your team, let alone specifically the females, have mentorship to help guide and provide that additional support. Because unfortunately, it can be a little more challenging at times for females in certain types of non-traditional roles. But also communication, which in my view is the biggest problem in the world. Communication with what are the things that you find challenging? What might you find challenging? And here's some guidance to help you navigate through those things. When you have the resources and that line to communicate with your team, and the females on your team specifically, usually that's through some type of a mentoring program, which we've put together for our department. It can be tremendously beneficial and can really help to to move someone towards success. Again, as long as they are the sponge and are open-minded to receiving that information.
Thank you. I appreciate both of those points on communication and mentoring. I guess we will go to the next question, and then to start us off, speaking of communication, we'll go to Kathleen, if that's okay for you. Let's go to, what advice would you give to young women or women considering a career change who are interested in non-traditional roles?
Do it. Do it. That's what I would, you have to follow your inner compass, whatever that is. You must, I think, and I have, right now, as maybe everyone's aware, in higher education, especially at elite universities, the students come as if there's only one possible track. Mm-hmm. And they do not think remote, even if they were like me, a bookworm growing up or something, they just think, and I really, I promise this is a considered perspective. It's not just a glib kind of, I'd say 98% of my students come to me all the time saying, well, I must go to Penn, and then I must get a job in finance, and then I must get on that wheel and make $1 zillion and make sure that my children can stay in this world. They don't just think out of the box. And it's always a little baffling to me that kids today don't understand the importance of what I consider humanities knowledge, and it kind of dovetails with what you're talking about, mentorship and communication. And in the previous question, I just kept thinking, what could organizations do? And to me, sometimes the blunt instrument of an organization is tough. It's the personal outreach that makes all the difference. And that's so I didn't have a lot of, growing up in Hamilton, New Jersey, there's not a lot of people in the entertainment industry. So it was hard, really hard to kind of figure that out. And you go, but my path is not so dissimilar to many males who have achieved a lot. It's just that I was lucky, and my family and my siblings and Barbara and everyone's like, well, you should do this. This is what you've always wanted to do. And just give them the confidence, so advice, I'd say, have the confidence and really, especially if you're young, oh my goodness. But even if you only have one life, you must do it. You must approach it, but don't do it in this ditzy way. Make sure you do your research, find who you think, whatever the non-traditional role is. Go to Dewberry. If you want to be an engineer, find this person, this amazing person who's one of 600 people who's both a land surveyor and an engineer. Or do the AI. I know it's very impressive, and I don't even know how to say it, but whatever, the AI thing, and law enforcement and FAA. You can write how much. I always tell my students, look up people and write a considered email and care about how you're composing that. Don't be a robot. Don't write what Wharton tells you to write. I don't know, it's 4.7, and and I've done this and this and this. It's no, I really researched. I've always wanted to. I'm fascinated by aeronautics, and I've studied your career. Will you talk to me? Wouldn't you all be receptive to that? Mm-hmm. So that's what I would say.
Thank you. Marie?
Yeah, happy to take this one. So for me, I think focusing on your skills that you have that are transferable, and so that can cut across different sectors, the things that you're strong at, that you feel energize you the most, and that you're proud of your performance in, and what other sectors, what other fields, what other roles those skills would be strong in. And as you're looking to make shifts in career and look toward those non-traditional roles, and I think it would surprise you how many of your skill sets are transferable into some of those non-linear movements. And to circle back to something we were talking about earlier today, the importance of sponsors and mentors. And so not taking it on yourself that you're here to please everyone that you work with, and you're not here to make friends. And you're also not there to convince everyone that you deserve to be there. But there are a few select stakeholders that can make or break your career. And so finding those allies, those advocates, those mentors, the people that will advocate for you in rooms when you're not there. And those are the people that you need to perform for and prepare for, and to show up your best way for. But you don't have to know your audience, and you're not there to convince everyone. So focusing on, similar to what Chief Stewart said, your craft, focus on what you do best. And sometimes it is a heads down approach that gets you where you want to go.
Thank you. As we wrap up our last question here, if I could combine again 2 questions. What does leadership mean to you as a woman breaking new ground? And what do you hope your legacy will be for women behind you? So both of those questions together, leadership as a woman breaking new ground and legacy. If we could do that quickly, we'll go right down the line and we'll start with you. Chief Stewart?
I'd say as far as my legacy goes, if you want something, go out and get it. It's not going to come to you. Don't wait to be a statistic and just fall into the crack. Go out, make it clear that you're the one, stand out, and get it. The only one holding you back is you, right? What is it? I think a great man once said that we're only limited by our imaginations. That's generally the case. Don't wait. If you opt to wait, just know it's never too late to follow your dreams, to follow your passions, because another great man once said, hard work beats talent, right? Mm-hmm. But talent doesn't
work hard.
When talent doesn't work hard, that's it. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard, right? Now you might have both, but hard work is an absolute must. So don't let anyone hold you back.
And I would echo that and build on that to continue to say, build your technical acumen. I always want to be known for my technical expertise and the go-to person. And I think that's what's gotten to me where I am. I didn't think I'd ever be sitting in front of you today, ever in my life. I kind of was very heads down. I was in the lab for the first 10 years of my career coding, implementing software, testing it, releasing it. And because I spent 15 to 20 years doing that, I understand now how to manage it. So I can help people through it. So learn your space, whatever it is. I mean, you go to a certain bakery because the item you're about to purchase is just delicious. You're not going to a bakery it's not going to taste good. So be known for that item, and it'll come.
Thank you, Ami.
Building on that, I think a 2-part, so don't tell yourself no, and also don't be afraid to be told no. So ask for the things that you want, advocate for yourself. Sometimes the ball will bounce your way, sometimes it won't, but don't be that one that shoots it down for yourself before you even get started. And want to echo that, there's no time like the present to jump in and try to make the moves that you want to make and advocate for yourself.
I'd like my legacy to be, because in the women's field, I think it could get competitive, that I'm the woman that's helping pull you up the ladder, because I'm up there already. I recognize that, and so the women that work for me, and even the men, I want to pull them up, and not be one of those people that's holding anybody back. And that's kind of similar along the line with my leadership. I work very hard to find my replacement, because as soon as I can find my replacement, I can then move on to another role. So I think my legacy and my leadership kind of are hand in hand to what I look to accomplish, because then the more I could do, I could move myself further along the line as well too.
Thank you, Lisa. What I like to think for my students is just that they can pay it forward. That they just, when good things happen to them, or they're good, it's I'm just following up on you. Just if you've somehow managed to get to some position or have some achievement that is noteworthy, then pay it forward. That's happened because of other people, so you need to pay it forward always. The world, that whole idea of abundance versus scarcity, I just think, even just for mental health reasons, it's better to think of it as abundance. It's not there's enough room for all of us, and just pay it forward and be kind.
Thank you. I love it, actually, because my perspective as chair of a new program is I want my students to be wildly successful so that they come back and mentor others and hire them, and it becomes this full circle moment. So if I could slide in, and then we'll open it up for questions. I have one question that I thought of this morning on the way in that's not on the prep deck. And that is there a time that you almost quit but didn't? And what kept you from doing so? Or maybe you did. Either way.
I'll start with.
Okay,
No,
thank you, Kathleen.
Just because it's a quick, I used to work with this, who's a really good friend, but an actor named John Leguizamo. And we had a company together for like 20 years, and he's just the best human. He's a creative wonderkind. Anyway, he was doing a Broadway show called Freak, and it was a massive hit. It was kind of a, Lin-Manuel Miranda talks about how that was a big inspiration for him. And I don't know what was going on for me. I was kind of in my late 20s, and I don't know, I would go to see, I was just working hard, and then I was like, what am I even doing? How am I helping the world? This is crazy. I should go join the Peace Corps, or I should go do something. And he said, and this is somebody who grew up in Jackson Heights, Queens, and is just like totally all just a creative spirit, he's just like, next. What else can I do? What else can I do? I'm not going to say it's, because I'm a 5'7" Puerto Rican guy. Like, he would never, none of that, like, in Hollywood's vicious, and he's just like, nope, what's my next step? What's my next thing? Anyway, I said this, I was like, what am I doing, John? Why am I doing this? And he's like, Kathy, everything is about stories. We can change the world. Are you kidding? This is so important. I don't know, and that has stayed with me for all these years, and I believe it. So anyway, that was my close call.
Thank you. We'll just go right down if you don't mind.
I think there's those times where you're just like, I'm done with this, and you just want to like walk out,
Right.
and just kind of go through cycles. I don't have like a pinpointed, but I think we all I think everyone has like those moments. But I have a network. I have a strong, I'll call it like my sorority girl group of peers from other firms, and it's a clique of us that we all are going through it, and knowing that we're all going through it, just like we had that conversation earlier, like different industries, we're all going through it. The grass isn't greener. We're always going to hit something. We're balancing careers, children's relationships, all the things, and I think it's just the burden that we take in on our own. We have to just learn to say, all right, I just need a moment, or take the time for ourselves, and just realizing that we have support networks out there that listen to us and will remind us, like, hey, maybe you just need to go take a day and not let this be the thing that burdens you. So that's usually my Monday morning.
Yeah, short answer is, have I thought about quitting all the time? Yes, at each stage, working on my dissertation, when it got too hard, early in career, when it was difficult, now being a working mom, some days feel impossible. Have I ever quit? I was pondering since you posed the question, no. But sometimes, the current situation doesn't suit you, and so rather than just sort of throwing hands up or running from something, look for the next thing that does feel right, and so then move toward something that either feels, more manageable or more beneficial for you and your career growth. So at those moments of friction, sometimes it is just a bad Monday, but if it's sustaining, then looking for the next thing to alleviate and move toward.
So for me, I had a hard time getting pregnant, and work was not easy. And I finally got pregnant after being on various medications, and therefore I had twins. And I was about to give up. I'm like, you know what, forget it. Forget the career thing. I'm just going to do the mom thing. Having twins is hard. So in the first 6 months, I remember when they started walking, and I started actually working for Stockton College. I was doing continuing education credits for teachers, and I loved it. And so I'm like, I'm just gonna give up the FAA career. And I went down, the boys were really quiet. I went downstairs, and they were taking mud out of the plant in the foyer. And I screamed. They were wearing diapers. I hit them on the back of their diaper, and they went the other way. Put them to bed. My husband came home. He's like, it's so quiet. What's going on? And I'm like, I can't. I'm going back to work, going back to the FAA, and we're going to balance this. And I think ever since then, that's been my grounding moment. And when I feel like I want to give up, I just am so grateful for having this career, because it's been balanced into my personal life.
So for me, it was during one of the peaks of the social justice movement. It was referred to on our end as the defund movement. I was in the midst of the doctoral program, and I was going to walk away from that. My dissertation topic at the time was student perceptions of campus police. So I really didn't need to gather data because I kind of had a clue at that particular point. So it was a lot. It was hurtful for me because, as I said before, I emotionally and physically wrap a lot into my career at Stockton. So it was rather hurtful to hear and see the reactions because of what was going on across America. We were kind of put in that box, and it was hard for me to wrap my head around it and to really swallow it. So fortunately, at the time, one of my doctoral professors helped me to come back to earth, so to speak, kept me grounded and kind of put things in perspective for me. So it really helped me stay with the program, thank goodness, and also stay employed. Although I didn't send my resume out elsewhere, I've never done that. But it was tough. It was tough for me for more than a minute. So, but I'm here.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing all of those really more emotional, like deep, connection to some situations where you're really deciding where does the rubber meet the road here, and life happens and we have to face all these things. My story is actually, so I'm trying to phrase this in a way where there are too many ideas in the world. The only regrets that I have are not ones that I took, but ones that I didn't take. Ideas that I didn't execute, but knew I should have. And so, but someone with the curse of competence, that's what I call the curse of, curse of curiosity rather, where I wanted to do all these things. I now have a colleague who serves as my bandwidth advisor. So I call her and say, hey, can I write this book? It's like, not right now. Put it off till March, like next March. So that's what we do, just as a way to actually practically handle that. Do we have questions from the audience? I think we have a few minutes for questions if you'd like to ask some. I see Bert had his hand up first, so we'll get you a microphone.
Well, coming from an industry like Atlanta City Electric, a utility that was very much male-dominated for a long time, I've seen the cultural shift, and we have many women who are top leaders in the company. Particularly for Ami and the chief, that you are in those type of industries that have been very male-dominated for a very long time. How do you deal with peers and even employees who may take your leadership for granted or may not be as open as they would be with a male?
Are you familiar with the StrengthsFinders at all? This team, right? Okay.
Yes.
So I have Woo in one of my top 5 strengths, which is winning others over, and individualization. And I do find that I use that as my tool and technique as I learned more about myself through my coach and mentor. Inherently, for me, I try to make sure that I can connect with you, especially with the men in the room, because that's all there was. And I started overcompensating. Like, I'm just not a sports girl. I'm just not. So I started joining like these fantasy football and all this stuff just to pretend that like, okay, yeah, I could talk about it too. So I would have my family, the boys would prep me. I'm like, okay, so what am I gonna say? Because they're, sorry everybody, Giants fans, and my family at work is Eagles fans. So I would just, because I don't care, I would wear Eagles, like I would wear my Giants pink jersey to work because I can and I don't care. And it would just upset everybody. I think that diffused the anxiety between the female-male thing, and I got them to hear me. So I used it as a technique to kind of just add some levity to it. And then when we were in those serious conversations, they took me seriously.
So for me, this kind of starts internally within my agency. So being a police chief female, I think it's important that compliance can come in a number of ways, right? So there's the legal authority where I can command compliance through compulsion, essentially. Or I can take the approach that I opt to take, which is the willful following approach. So, and in working towards gaining that willful following, which fortunately has worked well so far, it comes through a lot of trust development by being a person of action, by saying what I mean and meaning what I say, and being consistent. So when I show them that I care by being their advocate, right, especially some needs are very easy to identify. When I make sure that they have what they need and I'm working towards further needs, it's clear. It's a delicate balance between that respect, because sometimes people can take your kindness for weakness. That was my previous life, earlier law enforcement, as I moved through the ranks. I don't really make that mistake anymore. I've been very transparent and clear that I am big on accountability, but we're all human and we make mistakes every day, right? It depends on, is it a mistake of the mind or a mistake of the heart, right? So internally that's worked well. As far as externally, I believe that your department is a reflection of you. So as I work to rebuild my department, it shows. So fortunately, I work in a county where the county chiefs are stellar. They're very supportive. They're very excited for us as an agency, for me as a police chief, not from just what they say, but also through their actions and interactions. So I do my best to not only maintain some level of decorum when I interact with them. You know, I'm not going to go, ooh, party like a rock star. College, my undergrad college days are over, right? Thank goodness there were no photos back then. But anyway, so, but also, you know, when you display yourself in a way that shows you're competent, right, it matters. So people tend to perceive you or make their determinations of you within the first 10 to 20 seconds when they meet you. And I think I've passed that hurdle or that bridge with our county and state law enforcement partners and beyond. Through achievements, whether it be canine related, whether it be through just doing different presentations, whether it be the moving forward of my department. So at every level and at every opportunity, I try my best to put my best foot forward for myself and for my agency.
Excellent. Thank you. Appreciate the trust comment as well. Building trust among teams is really critical. The idea of, as we get our next question, real quickly I'll share that the women entrepreneurs, right, they would, in addition to wearing the jerseys and whatnot, learning the culture, they told me that they would go to the Scotch and the whiskey and cigar bars, and they would learn to smoke cigars. And now, I'm not advocating for learning to smoke, but they would at least hold the cigar, and they would get iced tea in the whiskey glass because they didn't drink and they wanted to be really sharp. But you can't tell the difference between iced tea and whiskey in a glass, and no one noticed. And they were able to get some contracts as a result. So just saying, savvy ladies.
Hi. So in the year 2026, women still are only making 84 cents for every dollar that men make. So my question is, being women pioneers in your field, how have you dealt with that issue?
For me, it's start companies. I mean, and encourage people to start companies, to be an owner, right? And the owner makes the decision on who earns what. And if you, then for you it's about profitability. But I'll hand it off.
For the agency, there's no distinction between men or women in salary. But there was something prior to this administration where your contract, a certain percentage of them had to be small business, and of them, a certain percentage had to be women-owned. And that has been lifted with this current administration. Very pleasantly surprised that as an agency, those that we gave the opportunity to by opening up that window, we have continued to endorse because we're getting the service that we need from that. So I'm going to keep going back to be the best provider in your space. Everything else will fall into place. So I understand like that from a salary perspective. From my field, we don't see that as actually opposite, because we do try to promote women-owned companies to broaden that. Because I think, whether you're a man or a woman, you bring a different skill and thought to the table. And that's why you need to have that diversity. If it's just a bunch of women or a bunch of men, it's not equitable. You need that balance to make sure that you're making a good decision.
I forget the name of I just want to answer. So on the private side, it was the Diane B. Act, or I forget the title act or whatever, regarding to the equal pay. But we hold accountability, the statisticians, and I have access to certified payroll, so I take a look to make sure that we're doing that for our women. So.
Okay, we're going to take
Thank
one
you.
more question from the audience. Okay, we'll take 2 more questions if there's and then I will have the last kind of question.
This is more a comment and response, because it was said earlier that when someone shows up, they take the salary, but somebody else negotiates for more.
Yes.
And this goes to, and I was going to ask a similar question, and then I'm glad you asked the question, because I think it comes on day one. We can't just show up and accept what's given to us as women.
Yep.
There's usually a salary band. And oftentimes, we'll be offered something in the average of the salary band. Both will, a man and a woman. We could be sitting behind 2 different doors. We're both going to start at $100,000. Let's be optimistic, right? $100,000. The guy's going to say, I need 120. The salary band goes to 120. So the recruiter can give him the 120. The woman goes, thank you very much, and she's all excited and goes home and says, I got the job.
Right.
So going in, understand, what's the range, and don't settle, and be a good negotiator, because that's where wage gap starts. It starts on day one, and it just grows from there.
Yes, thank you for bringing that back up.
And that from the president of the New Jersey Business and Industry Association.
Hi, I just wanted to see what advice you would have for someone at the very beginning of their career, because I know I just started, I'm still really in the entry stage, and sometimes I just get home and it feels like a bit daunting and trying to look at the steps ahead and trying to see myself grow and look into the future. So I just wanted to see kind of how you dealt with that as you were growing in your career.
That's what this is all about. Go ahead, Marie.
Who would like to take it? Marie?
Yeah, I'm happy to start. So for me, I'm looking back to how I got started, and I remember working since I was 14 or 15 years old, just little part-time jobs stringing together. But you don't realize even the silly, dating myself, Blockbuster Video and ShopRite. There's skill sets there, and there's relationships built there, and you learn how to conduct yourself professionally, and you learn soft skills. And so jumping in, whether it's working at the college gym or just starting with those small opportunities. I can't say enough good things about internships. I know it can be sometimes hard, especially if they're unpaid, but the value of those, you'll find a lot more companies of higher caliber will be willing to take interns for summer or during the semester, and those work-study opportunities, and that's really how you start to build your networks and also learn what you're capable of, and in that sort of that testing ground. And then from there, not being afraid to, when you meet someone at a conference or you're at a work event, going up to someone and saying, I really admire your work, I would love to work at a company like yours, and starting those self-advocacy, because it can be really daunting if sort of, you're just applying en masse to all these opportunities. We hear that, early in career opportunities are getting smaller and smaller, and so it really is going to be driven by those networks and being able to build your skill sets up, even if it's linking a bunch of temporary or small or internship opportunities together to start to build out that resume and that experiential learning.
Excellent point. If I can add one other thing, as we were coming in, I saw a colleague who is founded the Stockton Women's Leadership Council. So if I can give a pitch for that, it's a philanthropic and mentoring network for current college students at Stockton University, paired with someone in industry in the field where they aspire to participate. And it's an excellent, well-structured program. So if you're willing to participate as a mentor or possibly a mentee, I suggest that you look up SWLC online. Lisa?
Along that line, it was whatever you're aspiring to be, whatever your profession or your background is, find those professional organizations. They usually have student chapters or young membership groups that would help you along the lines with that, those connections for the networking that would help you along with those next steps, or even just peers and things of that nature to help you along. And they generally have some of those entry-level, introductory, like what would be your next steps in some of those professions, depending on whatever it is you're looking to do. So,
can I say, I know it sounds like a rosy picture and this is all picture perfect. It's not. It wasn't either. And it's hard. And I'll say that I'm mentoring like about a dozen young women in the agency right now. And I have a few who have left after recently with this administration, younger in their careers because they're so scared and nervous that it just debilitates them. So I would say if you have that, just make sure that your own confidence is what you keep drawing on, because you're the only one that's going to be the constant in your life journey. And if you don't have that confidence, those around you won't. So count on yourself.
I'm just going to add, stay off social media. Because it's just not fair. Like you just see it all the time. Kids compare themselves, like that's right, and especially in your 20s. Like the 20s are the 20s. Like it's great. You can't make a mistake, or you know the mistakes you can make. But otherwise, and so don't do that. Don't drive, crazily or whatever. Don't do those mistakes. Otherwise, keep your head down. Get off social media. Or whatever. Or set yourself limits or whatever it is. But don't compare yourself. And just the 20s are meant to be a testing ground. I love that phrase. I think.
But that's one of the reasons having a support mechanism or several support mechanisms is so important. So it could be combined with your mentor or not. But having those support, it's everything, especially when you're just mentally and or physically exhausted. Having those outlets, whether it be working out, whether it be reading a book, crying a good cry every once in a blue, where appropriate, listening to music, whatever it is that puts you in your happy place, you've got to get there. You've got to do it for yourself so that you can recharge and reset. So when we were talking about before mentorship, all of these different ways to find that mentorship, for me it all comes back to finding that person or persons who you believe are successful in that respective area, in your area of interest, and ask them how they got there. How'd you get there? I don't know if that exact route will be for me based on my situation, right? But perhaps you can help me map it out, right? Develop that plan. And then when that plan is developed, you got to stick to your guns and follow that plan as best you can in order to get there, right? And if you hit a hurdle or two, it's okay. Pick yourself back up, take a breath, and go.
Okay, before Danielle's going to announce a little surprise for some of you in the room, I wanted to thank each one of you. And the other thing that was fascinating to me is I think Kathleen, and because I knew her father, Ami, Lisa mentioned their fathers. I didn't hear any mentions of mothers. So I'm going to give you some advice from our mother, and I think this, and I think Kathy will fall off her chair because I had a hard head and my mother had a hard head, and we always went at each other constantly in my will to do what I wanted to do, and her telling me, no, you can't. And I still did. She would say to me, Barbara, always make sure you can support yourself. There's no guarantees in this world. And she told Kathy the same thing. You cannot depend on someone else to support you, not on an inheritance, not on a husband or a spouse or a partner. You are children. Even as you get older, people live longer. So that was one piece of advice. Second piece of advice was when I was sitting outside the State House, and had been out of college a year, and I was going in to meet with the Speaker of the General Assembly because he demanded that I meet with him because I got the job interview through a very powerful member of my family at the time. And he was going to prove that I was competent, or he was going to hire me. I didn't care who I was connected to. And I was scared. And I remember turning to my mother, and she goes, "Barbara, he puts his pants on every day like every single other person puts their pants or skirt on. Go in there and knock it out." And thankfully, I took her advice, and I knocked it out, and I have a wonderful career to show for it. The third thing that I would say is, mothers can have all kinds of different, relationships with daughters. But I think coming from the family that we did, we were expected to hit marks. And I mean, so do set marks for you and do try to hit them. And then the final piece of advice I got from a woman was my mentor, Nancy Becker, the first woman lobbyist in the state of New Jersey to register, first woman who owned her own firm. And I think it's Thomas Paine. She would say, "Barbara, everything is on the other side of fear." And I think that's the best advice I can tell you. Look on the other side of fear, okay? So.
I'm going to echo that because I have two daughters as well, and I always tell them you have to want it more than you're afraid of it. Thank you so much. What an inspiring morning. We are so thankful that you all joined us today. Thank you to our sponsors. Thank you to Stockton. We have a wonderful surprise. On the back of your name badges, if you have a raffle ticket on the back of your name badge, you will get a signed copy of one of Kathy's books. So please see Debbie if you have a, so great. And then also the panelists, can you just meet us real quick at the Stockton banner so we can just take a quick picture? And drive safe. Thank you so much for coming. We
Please
appreciate
scan the
it.
QR code.